Okay. We have Bruce and me.
And me and Tom.
Yeah. Oh, there's Rochelle coming and Carla coming. And okay.
I'm here. Do I sound like Minnie?
No, you're
You
great.
sound good.
Oh, good. I always loved Alvin and the Chipmunks, but I didn't want to sound like one.
Right.
Let somebody else talk like that.
Okay.
We won't tell them, right?
There you go.
And we're just waiting, excuse me, for Bruce Jaffe, I think. Not seeing him yet.
Yeah, he's maybe needing an extra moment.
Okay, well, we could probably, go pretty soon here. All right, why don't
He's coming in.
so-
He's coming in right now.
Okay, okay, good,
Personally, here.
great.
Should be in.
There he is.
He's here.
There he is.
There he is. Okay, we've got the whole board together again, and our staff is here. And let's see.
Carla's not very functional yet.
Oh, I know it is.
Okay, it's okay. We got her now.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
It was funky.
welcome.
It was funky. Something was funky about it. I don't know what.
welcome back. We just came out of closed session. There were no reportable actions. Anything else to report? Josh? I don't
But
see
no,
Josh.
presently Hugh, thank you.
Okay. Okay, great. Alrighty then. There we have no public hearing tonight. And so the next thing would be the consent agenda. Are there any public members that wish to speak on the consent agenda? Looking. And are there any board members that have items to remove from consent agenda? Let's see, Bruce Daniels, do you have anything?
Nothing for me.
Okay, Rochelle. Oh, your mic is
Muted.
off. She's muted.
I muted myself. Nothing for me.
Okay, Bruce Jaffe
Nothing to remove.
and Carla.
Nothing.
Okay, I have nothing either, so would entertain a motion.
I move approval of all.
I'll second.
Okay, move. Director Daniels, second by Director Lather. Roll call, please.
Is there public comment?
I already asked for the whole. I asked before that, so there was none. And I'm checking for little hands raised on my panelist list and attendee list, and I didn't see any. So anyway, so roll call, please.
Director Daniels,
Yes.
Vice President Christensen,
Yes.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Lather,
Yes.
and President LaHue.
Yes. Okie doke. We have, let's see, now it's time for oral and written communications or any communication on an item not on tonight's agenda. And so are there any members of the public that wish to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Okay, I do not see any hands raised. So any board members that have oral communications that are not on tonight's agenda? I'm looking for any signals here. No hand.
Carla, we're
Pardon?
going to give them an update on the discussions with Scott
Oh.
Valley.
Yeah, I could say a couple of things. We had if you want me to right now. uh, we had another Zoom meeting of the ad hoc committee between Soquel Creek Water District and Scotts Valley Water District. And it was a continuation of more introduction, but more of an introduction. But one of the things that we discussed was the Water Now Alliance Project Accelerator proposals that are due in a week and a half or so. And I didn't know if anybody was writing that proposal, but it did sound like a good step, because we also discussed how to
Operate.
operate together. We discussed some things that have already happened between Soquel Creek and Scotts Valley, between the staff members and managers, the mutual managers, to find out, get to know each other, and what each group does. And what else was on here? I've written it down. A couple of questions came up, and that was, whether City of Santa Cruz is going to do the ASR with Scotts Valley, and there's a couple of other issues like that. But basically, it seemed like the discussion that embodied by the item Water Now Alliance Project Accelerator was to see how the two districts could conduct, get a consultant to help analyze, do a professional analysis of how the two districts could work together. And that's a neutral party. So anyway, I thought it was really productive. There's still a long ways to go. Scotts Valley wanted to attend the WaterWise Academy if that gets off the ground this fall. And I thought Pirrett and Tracy did a really effective job of making these meetings mesh. So thank you.
Great. Well, thank you guys for spending the time on that. It's always good to look for ways we can, help each other.
Mhm.
So that's great. And so anything else on oral communications?
Oh, no, I guess that's the main thing.
Okay. All righty, then we'll move on. I didn't see any public comment for that one. And so District Council oral report.
Thanks, President Hugh. I wanted to address the two bills we've been following and have discussed at previous meetings that would make permanent changes to the Brown Act related to remote meeting attendance, and would allow directors to attend meeting remotely without having to post that location on the agenda and make that location open to the public. You'll remember there were two bills we were following. One was AB 1944, which was less restrictive on the use of private meetings. And then there was AB 2449, which was more restrictive. So unfortunately, AB 1944 did not make it through the Senate. And that bill is no longer being considered. AB 2449 is still being considered by the Senate, but after being passed by the Assembly, it's gone through substantial revisions in ways that pose additional restrictions on the use of remote meetings by directors. Just as examples, one new requirement is that directors only attend remotely if they can meet a just cause or emergency standard. And the bill does specify what will qualify as just cause, and it's things like illness, caring for a family member, or traveling for agency business, but wouldn't include things like work requirements or others, other obligations. Similarly, the bill now imposes a limit on the number of times an individual director can participate remotely each calendar year, and it depends on how often the board meets. I think the bottom line is that there have been discussions at the league and at others that this bill may not provide the flexibility that would actually be helpful to local agencies, and may not be something that would make sense going forward. And the last I had checked, the author has held the bill from moving forward in committee. So it may move forward in the Senate. Right now, it's a little bit unclear. I think the takeaway is we'll continue to watch AB 2449, but it's possible we may not get permanent amendments to the Brown Act this legislative cycle. The AB 361 does still have another year before it sunsets, as long as the governor's declaration of emergency remains in effect. And I think given recent COVID caseload type interest, it seems unlikely that will change anytime soon. So it is possible that we'll continue under AB 361 for another calendar year, and if we don't get good legislation out of this legislative cycle, we may get it out of the next. And as always, we'll continue to monitor. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Okay, well then we will move on then. Next is the 7.2, consider agreement renewal for Pure Source Water, the emergency water intertie. Who is presenting this one?
Dr. LaHue, this is our new O&M manager, Nate Gillespie, is
All right,
presenting.
Nate.
He's
Go,
up to
Nate.
that.
Great. Yeah. Thank you again, Ron. Yeah, just to introduce myself again, I'm Nate Gillespie, the new operations and maintenance manager. So presented in front of you tonight is the renewal of the agreement for the Pure Source Emergency Water Service. Sounds like the board is familiar with the history of this interconnection, so I won't be going through the historical data that's included in the memo. Prior agreements with Pure Source have been renewed for a 2-year term and have been contingent upon reviewing Pure Source's plan for metering its service connections. So the proposed renewal agreement will commence on August 16th of 2022 this year. To summarize activities during the current agreement period, which started in August of 2020 and expires in on August 16th of 2022, Pure Source has not requested any emergency use of water from Soquel Creek Water District. Pure Source has installed 13 additional water meters, so a total of 21 out of their 77 connections are metered. And Pure Source per capita water usage has been estimated during in the 2020-2021 period between 94 and 101 gallons per person per day. So as background information, the district has 2 one-way emergency interties. Pure Source is one and Trout Gulch is the other. Water use is paid for with these emergency interconnections at the commercial rate. Monthly service charges have been waived for these connections according to their respective agreements. All customers of the Soquel Creek Water District pay a monthly service charge regardless of occupancy status. And customers of the Soquel Creek Water District, they share a cost to maintain the redundancy of the water system infrastructure through these monthly service charges. So there's a benefit to Trout Gulch and Pure Source to have a backup emergency supply of water. And we want to be fair to Soquel Creek customers to not shoulder the cost of these one-way interconnections. Therefore, staff is recommending option 3 outlined in the memo, which authorizes the general manager to execute the attached agreement with Pure Source and return in 2 years with a recommendation to explore a monthly service fee for Pure Source and the Trout Gulch emergency interconnections. I see that we have Martin Mills of Pure Source in attendance, and he may wish to speak on this item. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm pretty sure Trout Gulch has all of their customers metered. Is that correct?
I believe they do, yes.
And do you know what their average per capita water use is?
I do not know that, no.
Okay, because I know in the district we're closer to 50. So, I looked at the history, and maybe Martin can address some of these questions. And I know they've had trouble with funding and all these things, but it seems like per capita water use is much higher than anywhere in Santa Cruz County. and maybe that may have to do with the fact that they're still not metered after all these years. So it's a question maybe for all of us to wonder if we've maybe been too lenient over these years. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's all I have. So Martin, do you want to speak and then take questions? And there's any other members of the public? I mean, I don't think we have anybody else. I see that hand raised. So Martin, why don't you go ahead?
Yes, thank you for having me today. I'd like to just correct a couple of things in the discussion there in your memo. One thing was that the county did not have the authority to require pure source water to meter. So we're not actually in violation of their rule, as the discussion sort of implies. However, AB law 45 or 2572 requires meters for systems like ours as of January 1st, 2025. So we're being regulated in terms of it metering by others. So I don't think it
Okay.
falls on the need for the Soquel Creek District to do that. And just to clarify, maybe the only PUC regulated company that is not fully metered in Santa Cruz County, but that's not true for the entire state, is my understanding. The actions and activities section doesn't really come close to telling the whole story of our water system. So that's just little talking points, but there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. One thing is that the flow rate that we get from our intertie is about 15 gallons a minute. And for a 1-inch service connection, that's really low. And I think that's because we're not on a pressurized line. It's just gravity feed off the tank. So if we were looking at paying for service, we would want to potentially drop down to a 3/4 inch service if we're only gonna get 15 gallons a minute anyway, and possibly, hopefully reduce our cost if that were the case. And also, otherwise we would be looking for a higher flow rate if we were going to be paying for a 1-inch service connection at 100 gallons a month. Just overall that, that $108.29 a month for a 1-inch service connection, if you were to charge that rate, corresponds to about $1,300 a year. That's a cost of about 6 additional meters to purchase. We install meters based on our funds available. So, I'd rather put money into installing meters than paying service charges that, we didn't use water for the last 2 years. We try our best not to use any water. So I'd much rather pay for improving the infrastructure. And it also mentions in the memo that we would benefit from a monthly service charge. I don't see how our system would benefit from a monthly service charge added to this. And the cost of providing our service should really be nearly nothing, if other than whatever costs you have to have us come before the board every 2 years and have our intertie inspected every year, but our air gap, which hasn't changed at all. So those are my points. As answer, I think you had a question about water use. You may have read in our in the packet there that we are contracted with SUSP for a leak study. We believe that we have a significant amount of loss, and that's why we've commissioned that study. We were taking more of an approach of trying to put in customer meters, but we've also listened at every individual service connection that doesn't have meters and not heard any significant water loss there. So that's why we're now turning our attention to leak correlation on our water main sections to see if we can identify a potential source of leaks. So unfortunately, I would love that this meeting were happening in 2 months when we have the results of that, but we go from what we have, and that's coming up in August, and we take it very seriously. I really want to get our water use numbers down as well. But now, after having done quite a bit of research, listening on those connections, 2 to 3 different times each, it's now my belief that our loss is probably due to loss from the water mains themselves. And where we do have meters in place, like I said, 21, or that's about a little over 25%, we're not seeing high water use rates. So we think that that's probably attributed to loss, not customers who are being wasteful.
All right, thank you. Let me take it back to the board and see. We'll go through and let each board member have a chance to comment or have questions. Bruce Daniels.
Yes, I was looking at this and I was really impacted by Nate's notion that it's not fair to our current customers who are in similar situations and have a connection and pay for it, for access to water, and some of them indeed don't use water, they just have it there for the connection, and they have to pay every month. And for this unit to not have to pay is not really fair. So I think moving to that is a good idea. And I would like to propose that we change or maybe add another motion. Take motion 2, where we go ahead and charge them for their fee now, but we set aside the money we collect to buy meters to give back to this agency. That way we would actually encourage that, because right now they only buy meters when they sort of don't have, when they have enough money to do that, and if they don't, well, they just put it off, and this would actually force the buying of meters and get them quickly so that they can start people charging the rates of the water they actually use, rather than get as much water as you want each month. And so I would like to see that motion.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Rochelle?
Sorry, I muted myself because I had a barking dog. One of the questions I had was about the grants that you talked about before, wanting to try to apply for, and I was wondering if you were able to, or if Pure Water was able to do that. I know that there's a lot of infrastructure bills going out, and I know that small water agencies are one of the ones that they're focused on. So I had a question about that.
I can answer that now if you'd like.
That's fine, go ahead.
Okay. We have looked into those grants, and our understanding is that we are not eligible for most grant funding because we're not a disadvantaged community, and also because we are privately owned as opposed to a mutual or public agency or something like that. We are theoretically a for-profit company. I can tell you I've not taken a profit. We've been putting that money back into metering. So, to get into what Bruce mentioned, whether you take the money and kick it back to us or not doesn't really impact how many meters I buy, because I buy meters with how much money we have anyway. So it's we have 6 meters that we just recently purchased, and they're all ready to go, pending me having time to put them in, which is taken up by things like this and leak studies and things like that. We're limited as to our time as well.
Okay, Bruce Jaffe.
Interesting proposal, Bruce, to help them with getting more meters, so there's that awareness. But looking at the table on page 33 of the packet, they really haven't activated the intertie very often, and it's really been main breaks and house fire and reservoir depletion and bacteriological contamination. So it's really an emergency situation. So I don't think this quite falls in my mind into the same category as, you know, a normal customer. We're helping out during an emergency situation. So, you know, were it to be something more consistent, then I think treating them like a customer would be more appropriate. So that I don't have a problem with not charging for, you know, like a customer. So that's where I'm at on all this.
Okay, Carla?
Oh, well, how much do these the meters cost that are put in there? And how, if we implemented something like you know, a service charge in order to pay for the metering, which is what we would almost certainly do. We would impose that on our customers for sure, one way or the other. But I'm just wondering whether that would go very far, because I don't know how. I can't remember. I think it was reported in the packet, but I can't remember. I didn't write it down.
You're wondering what the cost of the meters is?
Yes, you know, if it's a calculation of $1,300 a year, how many meters would that get? And apparently it doesn't include the actual installation paying to install it. So,
Well, maybe Nate, do you know the cost of the meters?
I don't know the individual cost of the meters now.
Okay. Okay.
Not prepared to answer that.
oh, I thought it was in the packet
Martin,
somewhere.
I can
Martin
speak
may
to
know.
that.
Yeah.
The meters themselves are around $200 a piece. That being said, our all-out cost is probably more in the neighborhood of $500 per connection, because our service connections don't have boxes. They don't have good quality shut-off valves. So we find that we end up replacing the shut-off valve and service brass fittings, put in a new box. And I'm doing all the installation for the meters myself. So we're not charging any cost for labor, but I would estimate probably an average of about $600 a piece. So you're talking a couple of service connections per year that would,
Okay.
if we were to take that same money.
Okay. So for me, I'm okay to look at this issue as far as charging a service fee. At the same time, we're looking at it for Trout Gulch, which was the option number 3. I think it's still worth looking into, because I do want to make sure we're being fair, because it's not how much you use it, it's having it there in case you need it. That, you know, that's not just something that costs nothing to the district to maintain all of our systems and maintain, you know, pipelines, and it's kind of buying into the system so that you have that availability. And it would be good whenever, if we do, you know, look at this before the next agreement comes up, and it comes up at the same time as the Trout Gulch mutual, then I think we can kind of look and try and at least be fair between the two mutuals, and then make sure we've had the time to, you know, show, you know, how this works with other customers that may or may not use water but want to have it just in case. I mean, if fire service is, people charge, you know, people have to pay a service charge for fire service because you need it when you need it. So I'm okay to look at it over this next 2 years, but I also think, you know, I think it may end up, once we look at it a little more, that it is a fair thing to treat them similarly. I know, Ron, I see your hand up, but there was one other, but go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and then I'll come back.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think you were hitting on it. I mean, the quandary we have is we want to be equitable to everybody, and our customers, certainly certain amount of what they pay goes to the redundancy, so they can have water, not if they use it necessarily, but it's there when they do want it. And so we saw an analogous situation here. And I think the other thing is why I think Nate's suggestion, I know he worked with Leslie on this, on the 2-year evaluation period. What I liked about that was it's not a surprise. Matter of fact, I know Nate reached out to everybody about this, both mutuals, but also we'll be doing a rate study over those during that time, and that could be brought in. So we'd have a rate consultant really try to analyze what is appropriate, what is fair to everybody, because there's many sides to this discussion, but that's our aim. Thank you.
And then I know what the other thing I was just going to say is, and it sounds like from what you said, Martin, that you have to have them all metered by sometime in 2025 based on a bill that was passed. And I'm not familiar with the number of the bill, but is that am I correct? And then what would that date be?
I believe it's Assembly Bill 2572. That's from 2004. And that's actually why I was not aware of it until recently, is because that was before I was involved when that bill passed. And that date you're looking for is January 1st of 2025. So essentially end of 2024. So really it'll be the period between, July of 2024 and, December 31st, when there would be any impact, of us not being metered, because I presume we will be metered by that point or be in non-compliance.
Okay.
I did want to mention one other thing, though. If in your consideration of a future charge, I think we would need to discuss the fact that we don't have the same service as your typical customers, because our use of the intertie is approved on a case-by-case basis with severe use restrictions, subject to review every 2 years. And then we have to purchase the water at $14 a unit, which is much higher than your typical starting rate of $8.34 per unit.
I think it's a commercial rate is what I understand.
Right. We're not a commercial enterprise, so we're residential.
Okay, but it is a private company too.
Yes.
So, okay, so I'm just bringing that up because even though Bruce's idea, is interesting and encouraging to get meters done, it sounds like they have to get done by then, regardless.
That's my understanding.
Okay, Carla.
Yeah, I know that's come up in the past. I've been through, this approval a couple times now since I've been on the board, and I know you're the residents who take the water from your company are residents, but it's a privately owned water district, and there's something just whacked about the way you're running it. Why, I don't want to. We are undertaking a rate study. The city of Santa Cruz had to do that. I'm sure Trout Gulch doing a rate because of the cost. There's inflation going on, and it seems to me that what you need to get this metered. You can't be the only person on this aquifer that is highly stressed to not be metered. This is more of an imperative thing, and that is why we now, in the past, we've gone around in circles and circles about this, but we gave you the commercial rate because it was impossible to, due to the lack of meters, it was impossible to assess what your theoretical water use would really be. And the commercial rate that is imposed in our district there are no tiers. It's not, it's just a straight business cost. And I think you still fall into that category. I know it's a residential neighborhood, but the cost is figured out that way. No one really knows how much water each customer is really using. And I think it's really imperative that you accelerate this metering thing. It's just insane that it's going on for 8 years. And I don't know whether you've had any rate increases, but that is one thing that other water districts have to do to get necessary tasks done in providing water for their customers. And so I agree that a service rate at this point, it's not going to do much to help you meter. It doesn't sound like, but I think you need to really figure out how to accelerate that with the metering. And then we can have a different discussion in 2 years when this thing is renewed.
Bruce Jaffe?
Yeah, two things. One is, as I recall, the reason it's a commercial rate is because that, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone from the board or from the staff, that is a kind of an average rate for the cost of water.
That's the cost to produce the water. Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me to have that rate. But I had a question. I recall, and this could be years ago, that there was an opportunity when we took out meters to replace them, AMI, to basically give it to people who need meters. Is that a possibility?
Well,
Are the meters
I'll let
already in good enough shape to be of use?
I'll let Shelley speak to. I think we did look at that, and I think we probably talked to Martin and the others. They can probably remember the details of that. But let me just go back to the flat rate, the commercial rate. I actually think that's another reason we did that. Why I think it's actually a bargain for them. If you were to think about it in terms of our tier is the assumption, tier one is the assumption of people are using around 50-55 gallons per day per person. And so the reason and they're double that. So they'd be into tier two, which is 4 times roughly what our tier one rate is. So the quandary is when they use it for a short time, are they really in tier one, tier two? But if you just step back, one can make a case for tier two. So I just want to be clear on that, just based on the per capita. But I'll step back now and then hand it to Shelley. Are you on to address, or Martin, maybe you remember our used meters, and did we talk about that? Shelley first, if you're on.
Yeah, well, with the most recent metering upgrade we did to AMI, we primarily only replaced the meter registers. So there weren't meter bodies left over. I think the prior upgrade from manually read meters to AMR meters, maybe we had some meters laying around that we could have sold to people.
We did. We put them out on the market. Maybe. And Martin, do you remember? Did you take us up on any of those, or why you didn't? If you had the opportunity.
I did not purchase any analog meters from you guys. We did get some for free from Trout Gulch Mutual. We have now gone to putting in all the ultrasonic and meters that are capable of drive-by breed. I feel like it probably makes sense for us to do that because it's 3 times or a third of the cost is the meter itself. So it's probably not worth it. If we're putting in meters, we should probably just put in the right ones. The other thing that's nice about them is that they do notify us if there's a leak, if there's any point, if there hasn't been a 15-minute period of time during the previous 24 hours when the water flow stopped completely, which is a nice feature. So I think we'd probably stick to putting in the meters that we have if we can. I don't think that would necessarily accelerate our meter installation to have analog meters to put in.
I think that's a fair assessment.
And I'm not objecting to the commercial rate per se. I can't afford it, to be honest. It's we do our very best, as you can see, to not use the intertie. But my point was just that we're not a regular customer per se, in the sense that we don't pay quote unquote regular customer rates, and we don't use the water indiscriminately. We don't have a choice as to when or if we use it. We have severe restrictions for that. So
Sure, that's the case with any emergency intertie that we have.
sure. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a few hands left up. I'm not sure if they're new hands or
Oh.
hands that haven't been removed.
There, yes, okay.
Okay. Okay, so I think in my mind, like I said, I would go with motion number 3, but okay to entertain any other motion somebody comes up with. Or I'll just make that motion. See if
I'll
anybody
second.
seconds it.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second, and then roll call, please.
Director Daniels,
No,
Vice President Christensen,
Yes, but I'd like to, yep. I think this will come back up in 2 years.
Director Jaffe,
Yes.
Director Lather,
Yes.
and President LaHue.
Yes. And I think we're all in agreement that, we have no idea where all that extra water is going. It could be a big leak, but it could be people that are just using water indiscriminately because they have no meters. So I think Carla's nailed it on the head. You got to get those meters in. It just doesn't feel right, but we can move on. Thank you. And so let me just, so this was 7.3 is like to go over some of the district strategies to meet our organizational goals with our strategic plan.
Yeah, good
So-
evening, President LaHue and board members. This is Tracy Hart, Human Resources Manager. I'll be presenting the item 7.3 tonight. As you know, the board held a workshop back in April, and we revised the district's mission statement, values, and primary organizational goals. Actually, the mission statement didn't get revised in that process. We liked the one that we had. But we did take an awful lot of time and put some really great thought into identifying some changes to our values and organizational goals for the agency. As you recall, this had a lot of input that we provided to the board from our staff. We spent a lot of time in the early part of this 2022 in working on strategic planning. And what we're presenting to you tonight is some work that we've done beyond the work that the board and staff did in taking a look at our primary organizational goals and identifying strategies in order to meet those goals. So if you take a look at the attachment number 2, you'll see each of the updated goals. There are 6 primary goals that the agency has in its strategic plan. And the executive team, our management group, spent a lot of time. We had at least a couple of sessions in taking some time to identify some strategies in order to meet these goals. Each goal has a set number of strategies, and our intention is to have the board provide input. If you had any comments, any input, any suggested edits that you'd like us to consider with these strategies, so that we can continue to move our strategic planning process forward in developing some sub-strategies, some metrics, and some tactics that we need to move this forward and work on our work plans as departments and as managers and teams. So love to take any comments or thoughts with the strategies that are presented to you in attachment 2. So as you can see, and I'll just use the goal number 1, implement sustainable solutions with regional partners to meet the long-term water supply needs of our customers, community, and environment. And we developed some sub-strategies 1, 2, and 3 in order to meet that goal. So creating a diversified water portfolio, which is focused on drought-proof solutions. meeting our milestones toward basin sustainability that's set forth under the law, and we need to do that by 2040. And promoting efficient water use and reduce water waste. So, like I said, I'm happy to hear your thoughts if you've had an opportunity to take a look at these strategies and any input that you might have.
Thank you, Tracy. Are there any public members that wanted to speak on this item? Looking for hands. Do not see any. Okay. So I can give each board member an opportunity to make comments. So we'll start with Bruce Daniels again.
Well, I think it's a pretty comprehensive list, and I don't see problems with it. I think the big problem is doing it all. It's quite a list of things to get done, and so I'd say if we can get even half these things done, we will have done a lot of work. So I like it.
Okay. Rochelle?
I'm very pleased with it. I like that we worked with staff and the public to come up with a good set of strategies and goals. I am very proud to be part of this. And yes, it's pretty big. It's going to be hard to get everything done, but at least we're moving in the right direction.
Okay. Bruce Chappie?
Yeah, no, I think this is great. And it looks pretty comprehensive to me. It looks comprehensive. And I imagine this is a living document that we can update as more strategies.
Yes, yeah, strategic plans definitely are dynamic and ever changing as we need to use them. And again, this just creates a framework for us. We've got a lot on our plate, as we all know. And so when we do come to some decision-making points, or if we're, setting our priorities, working with staff, creating their own professional goals, and this helps us. This document actually helps us keep our focus and keep us moving in the right direction. So we can use it in a number of different ways with the work that we already have on our plate, as well as moving into new planning and development of what's ahead of us.
Yeah, no more comments. Looks like a good first step.
Carla?
Well, I can see that, this document is aspirational, but it also reflects, at least in my experience, with the district, 8 years being on the board and following it previously, we're doing this, and we've been keeping these things in mind, and all these many years. And so I do really respect it, and I can see how, that it can be accomplished, and I appreciate that. So I don't have anything to change on it in any way. And I know it is a big list of things to keep in mind, but in some sense, when I go through this, I feel like the district has already been chipping away and implementing these strategies. So that's all I have to say about it.
Okay, thanks, Carla. I will just add, I am very proud of being a part of this organization. I think it's an amazing organization, and I think the best organizations keep looking at these things and evaluating how we're doing on some of these goals. And one of the questions I have is, how will you know how you're doing? Some of these are tough to measure, so I don't know if that's with a survey to get an impression of employees on how we're doing, or are there some measurable goals there that you could actually say, wow, we were at an 8 there, and now, or 95% of the people agree that we're doing that now, when it was only 90% 2 years ago. So that was my only question, is like, you know, it's great, but how do we know how we're doing?
One of the things that was included in the budget document that Leslie, takes so much time in doing is each of the departments actually has is tasked to set up departmental goals. And so, we have our own goals to meet, which could be, sub-strategies of these strategies.
Mhm.
And we should be looking at goals that are measurable. So again, in the next steps, our plan is to identify how we can develop maybe some metrics and some
Mhm.
measurements to make sure
Good.
that we are meeting those goals in that way, and that they're in some tangible outcome for us to be able to look at.
Okay, good. Bruce, you have your hand up.
I do. The only one that I didn't quite understand was under customer service, 5.3, seek and promote opportunities to promote the value of water within our service model. And I didn't quite get how that is meeting the customer service, provide respectful, responsive, and empowering customer service. So maybe you could explain that to me, or.
Sure, I'm happy to. I think this the value of water was a big discussion, if you recall, in our workshop back in April. We spent a lot of time in talking about do we really have ways of showcasing to our customers the value of water? How can we do that? How can we market that? How can we use that as part of our outreach so that customers actually understand that value piece? I think, our taking of the information from that workshop and thinking about, things that we can do from a customer service, are we, it's something that we're working on, and something that we actually took from that April workshop as recognizing that that's something important that we need to do. Water isn't just one of those things where you turn on and don't think about. We really need to take the opportunity to identify how to express that value of water to our customers. This actually is an item that came up in our appreciative inquiry with our own staff, staff working in water on a daily basis. How do we convey that value of water to our customers? So 5.3 is one of those that maybe we haven't had a whole lot of tangibles to showcase, but it certainly is something to aspire to. And how we do that is yet to be determined. But we want to do it, and it definitely came up from the board as well as staff.
Okay.
Good, Bruce? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tracy. Appreciate the work from you and all the staff. I think you got a thumbs up.
Thank you.
We don't have any modifications, so thank you. All right, so we get to the final item, which I think unfortunately Mike's had to wait for the whole meeting. So thanks. So are you there?
I think he's being
Uh-oh.
transferred into a panelist right
good.
now.
Taj, you're
Okay.
on mute if you're speaking.
I'm here. Thank you, Emma, and thank you,
Yay.
Dr. LeGue. Yeah, so
Okay.
well, it wasn't bad. It wasn't a long meeting, so it was okay.
Okay, great. And is there anything before? I mean, I love a resolution, and we surely appreciate you a ton and all of your wonderful attitude and hard work over the years. But I don't know if Taj had anything you wanted to say before.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Many things to say about Mike. It's been really great working with him. And it's nice that he's a customer of ours. And I know that he won't be just walking away. He'll certainly stay in touch with us. You know, I did an exit interview with Mike, and I'm not going to go over the whole interview, but I want to highlight a few of the things that, you know, really touched me. And I know you guys would like to hear him. I asked him what his greatest successes were or accomplishments while he was at the district. And he said that the Aptos booster station was an accomplishment for him because it was from conception to operation, including property acquisition, CEQA, design, construction, closeout, and it's online, ready to be online whenever we get to that. Also, I asked him what kept him at the district for 16 years. And he said he liked the variability, and there's always, every project is different. Every day is different. We're not just stamping out widgets. He really appreciates working in the community for people that he knows and seeing families that he knows in the district that he serves. One last thing, I asked him, or I stated that he's been a mentor for our department and people in our department. And I asked him what he found most rewarding. And he said, just seeing them grow and gain confidence. And he mentioned Carol and Bryce and Amanda and Connor in those, in his role there. I have a list of, it's probably not a complete list, but there are at least 56 discrete projects that Mike was involved with in 16 years. And, you know, one line of a project name does not give it justice for how much effort goes into a project, right? I mean, you could say Pure Water Soquel and you wouldn't know if you didn't know what it meant, or Chrome 6 or Aptos Pump Station or anything like that. O'Neill, Polo, you know, these are multiple year projects that he's been involved with and done a great job. All of them have come online and successful. Some of them not yet funded, but definitely carried on. I think we have some slides, and Emma, if you want to bring them up, we'll share the slides. We had a great going away get together with Mike and a lot of the coworkers, a little barbecue that was held on the 8th of July. And I think there's some pictures of just Mike's years at the district here. These are obviously not the event on the 8th, but just through the 16 years of Mike's contributions.
Looks like you got a nice mug shot in there.
A couple of them maybe, but some of them aren't. No.
Next slide. This was the going away barbecue. We had some other retirees come give their congrats to Mike. Casey and Christine were able to join. Mike's wife and daughter came and had lunch with us. And Nick manned the grill, and we appreciated all the nice company there. This is a map that was put together. It's a photo or a scan. It's not really, it's a digital map that Carol put together through our GIS program. We're able to identify all the maps, all the projects that we've completed, but also the ones that Mike has been involved with. So everything in green, Mike's had a hand in, and I know there's some other, things that might not be shown here due to facility assets, but it's been a monumental career that he's been very successful at. And I appreciated it as his manager, as his friend, as his coworker. I try to be a working manager, so I get to work with Mike, and it was a great time in my career. So I hope he enjoyed it too.
Taj, you there?
Yeah.
I see you missed one of my projects.
Uh-oh. Which one, Mike?
It was one that I mentored one of our engineers with. It was Oak Hill Poplar.
Oh, okay. In Seacliff.
Yeah. I just suddenly realized it. That should be green.
And then Now, this is one of Taj's creations. You want to explain this, Taj?
Oh, it's a fountain, another fountain. Christine got a fountain. Some other people got lamps. Mike got a fountain, and it's got a PRV valve in there and some pump impellers and some copper tubing and a meter.
And I think a shirt too from staff. What is it? What does that shirt say?
It's a
Not-
tired engineer.
Not my problem anymore.
Oh, that's great.
That's it with the slideshow. If you would like to read the resolution, that'd be great.
I sure would. All right, Mike. Whereas Mike was hired by the district in April 2006 after spending the prior 10 years as a consulting civil engineer, focusing on water infrastructure and planning efforts. And whereas Mike is retiring from the Soquel Creek Water District, serving the public for 16 years and contributing countless working hours on various critical water infrastructure projects. And whereas Mike takes the responsibility of a public water systems civil engineer to the highest professional level, maintaining his California registered civil engineer license and grade 2 distribution operator certification, and regularly seeking out continuing and professional educational opportunities. And whereas Mike was instrumental in the design and construction of district infrastructure and facilities, including, what was the one, Mike? Poplar, and then also Soquel Drive, Sea Cliff area, Vienna Woods, Clubhouse Drive, Cathedral Drive, and La Selva Beach area water main replacements, the Aptos and McGregor pump stations, the Polo Grounds, O'Neill and Granite Way wells, Aptos Junior High replacement well, the Seascape well improvements, the Country Club well replacement and 123 TCP treatment design and planning, the Quail Run tank design and planning effort, and numerous smaller district engineering projects, including several new development projects. And whereas Mike made considerable contributions to the hexavalent chromium treatment effort and provided respected coordination with the State Division of Drinking Water. And whereas Mike is respected by coworkers, contractors, and consultants with whom he's worked over the years, and board members, I added that in. He is never short of a kind word or a grateful remark to others. And whereas Mike has been a mentor for employees in the district's engineering department, taking pride, increasing confidence in others. And whereas Mike's colleagues attest, he is collaborative and always willing to support his fellow coworkers. And whereas Mike's musical prowess is admired, filling listeners with energy and happiness. And whereas Mike is an exemplary colleague, supervisor, and friend, his positive impact on the district will be felt for many years to come. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Soquel Creek Water District that Michael Wilson is hereby recognized for his 16-year dedicated career and to his countless contributions to the district. And we all join in extending our sincere appreciation for his loyalty, professionalism, and years of service, and wish him a very long, rewarding, and well-deserved retirement. So passed and adopted by the Board of Directors. Well, we haven't voted yet. Of the Soquel Creek Water District this 19th day of July, 2022.
I'll make the motion. Ha, I beat you.
I second then.
Okay, Rochelle made the motion. Dr. Daniels seconded. Roll call, please.
Director Daniels,
Yes.
Vice President Christensen,
Yes, and thank you very much. It's been nice working with you, Mike.
Director Jaffe,
And thank you very much as well, Mike, for all you've done for the district.
Director Lather,
It's been fun working with you when I was at the county and now being a director. Sorry to see you leave before me.
and President.
Absolutely, yes. And thank you very much, Mike. And also keep spreading that good, positive attitude in all the next things you do. you know, it makes the world a better place. So thank you very much. So it passes unanimously.
I'd
Awesome.
like to say thank you, directors, very much. It's been a pleasure working for the district. And it's been the most meaningful 16 years of my career. So
Great.
I appreciate it. I
Cross.
working for my community, it can't be better.
Well, thank you again. And so you guys, this gets us to item number 8. So I will leave you all and we will see you at the next meeting. I'm not sure about the October 4th meeting. I guess we are having
August.
In August, yeah.
August. Yeah. August is August. What's the date on August meeting?
August 16th.
16th. Okay. So see you in about 4 weeks. Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you all. All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.